So as Tanya and I have been putting together this training, Tantra of the Sacred Warrior, I've been reaching out to men that I'm connected to, inviting them into this 10-week journey. And it's been interesting to just get some different responses from guys, different reasons that they wonder if this course is for them. And Tanya and I were chatting about this on our weekly Zoom meeting, and I thought I would just hit record button and talk about this a little bit more, because I think that the conversation we're having behind the scenes would be valuable to some of the guys out there who are looking at the sales page and saying, well, is this course actually for me? This feels like it's describing a different kind of guy, or am I ready? Am I just in a place where it makes sense for me to do this training? So I'm going to give an example and kind of create a polarized picture of two of the types of guys I've been talking to. The first type of guy is a guy who's really just drowning in shame around his sex. He may be in a sexless marriage where he feels kind of hopeless about being able to actually get what he wants there. Got a lot of shame maybe around just being a man, around his masculinity. And he's like, I'm too buried in it to even like do anything about it. It's painful to even look at this stuff.
Yeah.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, a guy who's gets all the sex that he wants, and he doesn't have, performance issues. He is able to keep it up. He's able to, basically have sex as long as he wants. And so he doesn't have a lot of the kind of, like problems that some of which we speak to on the page around sexual performance and shame and stuff like that. But he gets bored of women really quick. He's able to have all the sex that he wants, but he doesn't know how to find intimacy with himself, let alone with the woman that he's with. So this is kind of the polarized picture of two of the types of guys I've been speaking to, and I just wanted to dive into it, Tanya. So I'm curious just what comes up for you as you hear me talking here.
Well, interestingly enough, I get just probably like you do that those very different types of men in my coaching, coming to me and asking me questions. So the first type of guy who's in a sexless marriage, a sexless relationship, who is feeling like, what is the point? Like, why even take a class like this or a course like this? I'm not going to get laid. My wife's not interested in me. We haven't had sex in years and years. There's 40 million sexless couples right now in the U.S., and those are the ones that are saying they are. So when, what can happen with that is I've frequently found that when a man comes to coach with me and he's got that issue, his desire, of course, is I just want to convince my wife to have sex with me. And can you help me do that? When he starts coaching with me, he finds out that part of the problem is that he's not addressing himself. He's still in that thing where he's trying to get something. And clearly, it's very hard to hear. Most of the time I say, it's not that your wife doesn't like sex, it's that your wife doesn't like the sex she's having. That's a difficult thing to hear, right? But that's where the healing starts. Because if you can say, oh, well, she's never said anything, but she's not having sex with me anymore. Clearly, there's something going on. So whether it's actual sex or it's lack of intimacy, we definitely get into that. And it's always, even if I work with couples, it's always a solo journey to start. You have to address yourself and the issues that you're carrying or feeling or being with that are influencing. I have actually worked with men only for a while, and the dynamic, they changed so drastically in their dynamic that all of a sudden their woman was looking at them like they were a different person. And without the woman even addressing whatever, that whole chain, that just created a change. And so that's that part. So that's definitely something we're going to be working on and doing. And interestingly enough, it's the very same thing that works with the guys that call me up and go, I can have sex, I'm hot, women love me, that's it. But like you said, bored. Like, after a while, it's like, okay, no challenge. I can get it whenever I want. Yeah. It's the same kind of thing. What the heck is going on? And I want something different. I don't want to keep doing this. At some point, you get bored with the notches in your bedpost. Just ask me. It gets boring, and then what? So the same type of practices, the same type of um, deepening into yourself, the same things that things that we're doing in this course actually address both of these things, even though it seems like incongruous that it would. Um, but it does, just kind of almost the same way a man with delayed ejaculation issues and a man with premature ejaculation issues. I use the same plan to do both of those things differently.
Yeah, and I want to break that down a little bit more because in my experience, what it always ultimately comes down to is my connection with myself. Like, am I able to have an intimate connection with not just like my physical pleasure, but like a deeper kind of pleasure that really like fills the hole, fills the void. And I think both of these types of guys, they both have got a void inside
Yeah,
of them that they don't know how to fill.
absolutely.
And the practices the that you bring for sure, which I would love to hear you speak a little bit more about in a moment, but the practices that you bring around kind of rewiring the neurology and opening up the body, creating more somatic availability, and just the space that we're creating for these guys to really deepen into their own relationship with themselves is, like you mentioned, the fundamental thing that allows us to create an intimate relationship with the other.
Yeah.
If I've got a void inside of my body, inside of my heart that I don't know how to fill or get access to, I'm going to keep looping the same patterns over and over in my life, whether it's not enough sex or too much sex or too much of the wrong kind of sex, until I actually figure out how to reorganize what's happening inside of this body and create a different kind of availability for intimacy.
Absolutely. I love it. You actually like you talk about my work so eloquently. I'm like, hey, yeah, that sounds really awesome. So I should have you write my bio. So basically, even though everything's about sex, I believe that pretty much every issue we have comes down to if we're not sexually healthy in a certain way. There's a lack of balance in our sexuality. And even though everything is about sex, it's also not about sex. And in the same way that, our sexual self is an extension of the relationship we have with ourself.
Yeah.
And as I say, you're much more, I love listening to how you speak about these things. It's, it pretty much, if we're not in agreement with our complete selves, and that's what when I talk about integrity, that's what I mean. We're not integrated. It's very difficult to have what we really want. And what we really want is deep connection, great sex, just a feeling of just not being in conflict, really. And most of us don't even realize we're in conflict between what we think and what's going on in our subconscious mind and what's going on in our somatic body. So we've got three different things happening, and we're not really in sync with that. And that's where
to talk about because you have been doing this work for 35 years and are blending like neuroscience with old ancient tantra. So talk about how you reconcile this stuff.
Yeah, so basically when I embarked on my classical tantra journey, which is different from the neo-tantra sex fest that's happening in the world, tantra masters, authentic tantra masters, are basically the experimenters of energy. They believe that anything that happens in the physical world can occur in us as well. So like, the lizards that lose their tails can regenerate them. This means that we're actually capable of regeneration of body parts as well. So if you can find it in nature, we're capable of it. So their whole mission is how to become so aware of themselves, become so integrated with themselves that they can manifest energy in any format that's available, right? So then neuroscience, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon when I got out of school. So I'm really heavy into the whole chemistry, biology, and how we work. And then I got into psychology aspects of it. So blending that old school technology with the new brain science of how to rewire and get your body cohesive has been, my work for the last, as you said, 35 years. And it becomes more and more fascinating how most of us don't understand 97% of decisions we're making are not ours. We don't actually have free will. We have programs. And when you get that, you're in conflict a lot of the time because you have a program that you don't recognize, and you have an idea that you're having, and your body's holding memories of things that's happened. Your body remembers everything that's ever happened to you in your life is there. and you are like three parts. And so working to make all that into one, that you can use all of the power of all of it, gives us that filling of our heart, gives us that confidence in ourselves, gives us that integrity we crave to move into the world in a way that's no internal conflict is happening. And that's freaking power. And when you inhabit that kind of power, you don't need to worry about whether you're having good sex, because everything you're doing is freaking awesome. Like opening your eyes in the morning is like, holy cow, this is amazing. Getting touched, back of the hand, your whole body is orgasmic. Men don't realize they can have multi full body orgasms that last for hours and not even have an erection.
Yeah.
So, we're just so tiny in the potential of everything that we're capable of. So that's my mission, is to help people learn what like peak experience is. And it doesn't mean I can run a mile in this means. It means like living and inhabiting your body that's such a landscape and so full of texture and so incredibly astounding just to see, hear, taste, smell, feel, that, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything else to add.
And then as a woman who's works with men to achieve that, typically when a man comes to see me or my lover, right, doesn't know that stuff. And so, as a woman, what's my role is to basically allow access to that experience. Like, this is what it's like, to be in that experience. For men who learn this, I can just say that, your mind can't conceive what you can't conceive. So I can say things, you just don't ever get it. When you step into the experience of it, because knowledge is in the head, mastery is in the being. When you step into the experience of it, and, I get the feedback from women who's men that I've taught, right? And they're like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Everything's elevated.
And I think any guy watching this video at least has some, even if it's still a conceptual idea, there's still some deeper part of him that knows that more is available. The deeper levels of connection and intimacy and fulfillment and just pleasure that you are speaking about, and that this course is all about. I think any guy who's gotten this far in the video knows on some level that there's more available at the same time. It might still be somewhat conceptualized. He might not have a fully embodied experience of it, but like, this is what we're built for. We're literally built to experience these states. And like you were speaking to earlier, a lot of it is just about like shedding a bunch of the bullshit that we've picked up and that's been kind of transmitted into us over the years, so that we can reclaim, what our birthright is, and what
be ourselves.
And some part of us knows in every moment that more is available. Otherwise, like,
we wouldn't do anything.
They wouldn't be asking these questions. They wouldn't be sitting here saying, I know that I want more with my wife, or I've got all that I want seemingly with women, but like, there's a deeper calling still.
Yeah. Well, why do people climb mountains? Why do people push the limits of boundaries? It's because the feelings that you have when you are in that space is actually either focus and or presence. And both of those things bring a quality to an experience that is unrivaled by anything else. That you can actually have that experience just taking a breath and waking up in the morning. So.
And then you get to having sex also, and your sexual connections, and it feels really fucking good. It's pretty awesome.
There's sex, and then there's peak arousal sex. And let me just say that sex compared to that is like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right, beautiful, Tanya. Well, thank you so much for just breaking all of this down with me today. And for any guy listening, if you've got any thoughts, any questions, feel free to drop them below in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to learn more about the training, tantrasacredwarrior.com. If you want to chat more with Tanya or I about any of this, there's a link on the webpage to book a 20-minute call with us. We would love to connect with you. So hope to get to talk to you in the comments or on the phone or in the course.
March 27th.